Good evening. Welcome to The Spiritual Life is Not a Theory. My name is Summer and I am an alcoholic. I have here with me special guest Bianca. I met Bianca at Friday night midnight meeting. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, Bianca, feel free.
Yeah. Hey everyone, Bianca. Yeah, midnight Eastern time.
Yeah.
Eastern time. We're truly a global fellowship, y'all. Midnight Eastern time, TGIF and the Midnight Rounders. I co-chair this with Cameron F. And it is open. It's under the banner of CA, but it is an open meeting to all addictions, all afflictions. Same spiritual solution, same sponsorship style, and we have a lot of fun. We open the room like 30 minutes before, we DJ, we got a playlist that's like dedicated to the night's topic, and we get into it. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bianca. All right, so we are on XXVI, and we are right after the first letter from Dr. Silkworth. We're going to pick up there and see what the doctor's opinion is all about. All right. The physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. In this statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe, that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or we were outright mental defectives. These things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us, but we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. All right, Bianca, do you have anything to say to that?
Absolutely. I should probably qualify just real quick. My name is Bianca. I am a gratefully recovered addict of the hopeless variety. If anyone's new listening in or on the channel, this just means that I'm 100% hopeless apart from divine help. Okay. When I want to stop, I know I need to stop. I wish I could stop. I try. I cannot on my own power. I need divine intervention. I live free today only when I pick up this toolkit, and that's a full 12-step program. Yeah, of course, I work with others. Yeah, I feel compelled to just bounce back one page just to point it out as part of why I always say I work with others and I need a full 12-step program. First page of doctor's opinion says, as part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to others, impressing upon them that they must do still likewise with still others. This has become the basis of the rapidly growing fellowship of these people and their families. They've recovered, la, la, la. So it was really impressed upon me before I even knew what the conceptions were. They're not even telling us the ideas yet, that I have to pass it on. And it's a privilege and an honor to do so. Okay, so we're at that first big paragraph on XXVI. Summer just read it through. Right? We who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe. Sometimes you hear this craziness in the rooms, people who don't know the book, like there's no musts in the book. They're everywhere. I have them all circled and mucked up. This is a must. We must believe this. We must. And it's not always we must believe this in order to be free and get it. It's like, if you have truly suffered alcoholic torture, you must believe this. It's absolute. You must. Like, I hope y'all get it, how just, from my intonation here, like how all my notes are in this paragraph. The body of the addict is quite as abnormal as our mind. We're about to hit all the stuff about the physical allergy, right? That I still have, by the way. Even though I haven't, picked up a drink, etc. I'm an addict by nature. We're insatiable, like absolutely insatiable. And when I have the drugstore in my mind, right? The bottle, the fork, the credit card, the phone, the drug, whatever, it's but a symptom. So I have an abnormal body, and it's not, it's not only this, is what I'm learning, and I'm bringing the raw truth of my program and how I read the book today and how I sponsor. Absolutely, when I put a mind altering substance in me, it's very, very obvious. Okay. Like it will be very obvious, but I still have an abnormal phenomenon of craving and a body allergy, even when I don't put it in. It happens with my thoughts. It'll happen with the answers that I ask from God. It'll show up in prayers, right? Like I get one answer, not enough, not enough. And so it sparks. So there's a chemical thing. I can alter it, mega, mega alteration, right? If I like consume something outside myself, and most of us know what that is, but I still could get, I could still set it off with the chemicals in my own body. So by nature, I'm kind of insatiable. This is why it's not enough for us just to live without, the drink, the drug, the person, whatever your main, your all these, primary DOCs are. It's not enough because I still have this body thing. I need a defense. So yeah, my body, when there's a chemical thing that goes off, or even like a neural pathway that gets dug a little deeper with a thought, we got shit in here. We got like serotonin, adrenaline. I have this abnormal thing where I might keep going, right? Or I want to, on my own. It didn't satisfy us to be told that the only reason is just because this, that, and the other, which is definitely true. And I love that. It always makes me giggle when I read that, right? These were true though, to some extent, but it's not the full picture. It's not the full picture. This is why we don't try to go after straightening out mentally first, right? If we could just straighten out mentally first, right? Get ourselves together with reality, get more adjusted to life, right? Like analyze our mental whatevers. It's not going to work. I have to address the spiritual first after, and they're going to tell us later on the page, right? My body is cleared, and perhaps a period of detox. So I'll just read that last sentence again. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic, addict, codependent, whatever, which leaves out the physical factor, is incomplete. Good, Summer?
Good.
Okay.
Awesome. And another thing, like with Dr. Silkworth, when we see this, the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. I think, with Dr. Silkworth at Towns Hospital, him seeing us coming through and like how abnormal we were. We may have drank the same as a temperate drinker or a hard drinker, but there was something abnormal about the way that we were continuing in and out. There was something different about us that I think kind of, made him think like there might be something different about these people. So that's all I had to say. All right. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may of course mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. All right, Bianca.
The only thing I have to hit there, is a classic. You got to look up what an allergy is, right? There's just this abnormal reaction.
Right.
That's it. I think we got more to discuss on the next one.
Yeah.
You got anything, Summer?
Just that when we look up allergy and we see that it's an abnormal reaction, it's not, a physical, it doesn't necessarily manifest physically or outwardly, I should say. It doesn't come up as hives. And that's what I came to AA or CA with, this old idea that an allergy was something like a rash or like my closing of my throat. That's what we thought, but it's different. It's an abnormal reaction. And I think it's important to look also at what a normal reaction is, like to take heed to what normal drinkers do, so we can see how we are different, set apart. So yes, perfect. Thank you. All right. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as an altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. All right, before we get into the letter, Bianca.
Yeah. I love this paragraph. I should also say that I work mostly with addicts in SLAA, Al-Anon, CODA, the OAs, these and I've worked with straight up alcoholic drug addicts too, but most of them are coming back around for the how not to live dry, right? And we go through it for our thinking and our behavior, and all of our relationships with everything outside of ourselves. So I often get these questions, right? Like, well, what does detox look like for my like crazy relationship, this romantic relationship, with my work, with my relationship with food? I can't just stop eating, I'll die, right? With my relationship with money, all of these things that we can engage in an addictive pattern with, that, make no mistake, will absolutely kill us. We have to take this into account. So I offer a lot of modifications. I always go to this. No rule can be laid down. We'll see that later in the book for a lot of things. Sometimes we get rules, sometimes we don't. This one's definitely a suggestion, right? I'll read the end of it. They have a better chance of accepting and understanding what we have to offer. I'll hit the beginning first. Okay, so we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as the altruistic plane, right? Connection to a higher power and service, essentially, is what they're talking about. Okay, but before you could even connect to that or get to that, we favor hospitalization for someone who is very jittery or befogged. So we have to, what's jittery, right? Jittery is like you are experiencing the physical and mental symptoms of withdrawal, which can be from anything. It's very, again, overt, very obvious when we're withdrawing from a mind-altering substance. Okay? And it looks different across the board. It can look different, and there's different risks involved. So we are talking about essentially a period of detox that would go across the board for all addictive patterns, a period of detox. And I always just, offer the modification for hospitalization to dependency detox, right? Medical or otherwise. We might need to, pause, and get cleared before we, sometimes we never re-enter that space with, let's say, alcohol and drugs. But when it comes to like food and love and sex and money and work, we have to really identify. And as a sponsor, I'm not here to identify it for you. I'm big book all the way, right? I'm just here to support you in following the dictates of your higher power and share my experience. But I intuitively knew, I think we all know what we are dependent on and what we need to pause on. My dependency detox looked like, for me, looked like 35 days in treatment. It's part of safety too. I always bring in safety, right? Like, I didn't need medical detox from alcohol at the time that I entered, but I needed safety from a wildly crazy relationship where my safety was compromised and I needed to get out. I took upon my own, whatever, nobody told me to, I took a period of detox from social media, from certain family members, from, I took this period and of detox. And absolutely, we need medical detox in some cases, right? If I'm chatting with a newcomer that's still using or has just stopped using, if you don't know, you better pass them on to someone who knows, because people could die, in withdrawal, particularly from alcohol, right? Oh, I'm fine. We know a lot of people are, have heard these stories, right? Where, people seize out and die because they said they didn't need medical detox, right? They're just going to stop. It'll kill you when you're doing it. It kills you when you stop. A lot of different things are like that. I don't know why I'm feeling called to bring in you know, again, with certain things like, love addiction in, let's say, like a domestic violence situation. It's the same thing. It's like they could kill you while you're there. They'll kill you if you stay. They'll kill you if you leave. So if there's an intervention and a period of pause that would require someone for safety, either emotional safety, physical safety, right, their medical safety, to be hospitalized, help me, guys.
Hospitalized.
Oh my word. Hospital is, oh fuck, forget it. Thank you, Summer. Like it could be part of their process. Right, if they're jittery, if they're unsafe and they're experiencing withdrawals, and if we're really befogged, right? And I was befogged again. I didn't need medical detox from mind altering substances, but I was so fucked with what was going on with me. I'll get into details one-on-one if anyone wants to know. That my mind was mush. I don't know my name. I'm crawling on the ground. Like I was, it's the bewilderment, you know. We really might need other agents of God in the forms of human beings to step in during this period of detox. And it says it's imperative, right? More often than not always, so it's not super black and white here, but the brain and the body, it's part of the body too, to have separation from that which would be unsafe to, stick around for. And then we just have a better chance. Okay, that was a lot, Summer. What do you think?
I think it was a great explanation. Awesome. And I think you covered it. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. All right. So we're going to get into the second letter. All right. The subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction. I say this after many years experience as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction. There was, therefore, a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages. We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What without our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. You have anything here?
Yeah, big time.
Okay.
Really with that last paragraph. And I have to say, I've been probably for the last year, I feel like God is calling me to get like an AA history sponsor, like specifically for the history. I'm like in that era and season of my recovery where now I really want to know more. So I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about that stuff. So I'm gonna kind of skip over those first few. Maybe Summer, you could come in, but I just want to hit this last paragraph right there. Some form of moral psychology. When I was taken through, I was told this is, like a psychic change, a spiritual experience, like something here needed to shift. Our conceptions needed to shift. And that's of urgent importance to people like us. But its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. So there's several things in this paragraph where they're going to tell you, if you haven't figured it out already, that you're beyond human aid. If you're like me, and the medical community agrees, right? That we're beyond human aid. So it was beyond their conception. Even with the ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we were not well equipped to apply the powers of good or powers of God. I do that throughout my whole book. I replace good with God, or spiritual principles, right? The power of God that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. When something's synthetic, it's like an imitation of something that's like naturally occurring. I'll say divinely occurring or present. We cannot, the synthetic version of this spiritual approach is not going to work for us. I like reading that, like, okay, the medical community, was humbled enough to admit, and it encourages me to be humble enough to admit to myself,
Mhm.
that with all my analysis and my knowledge and that, you know, on the human 3D level, uh, we're beyond this type of aid. Okay, Summer.
Awesome, beautiful. I'll comment just really quick a little bit about, as a medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction, and I too am not a history buff, but recently I've learned, Dr. Silkworth, he came to love the alcoholics in medical school. When he went to medical school, he developed a love for us and a very huge interest for us as alcoholics. However, he didn't know what what it exactly entailed. He saw what was going on with us, but he didn't come to Towns Hospital until 1930, and he had kept in touch with Charlie Towns. I guess he was the director or the owner at the time of the hospital. He had kept in touch with him because of his love for us and because he had this special interest in us. When he was in medical school, Dr. Silkworth went on to having his career and was doing well, but in the end of the 1920s there was the huge stock market crash, and that's what caused him to lose everything and not have anything, and was offered this position to come and work for Towns Hospital and to be the the director, treating alcoholic and drug addiction. So back then, I think he was putting himself on kind of a limb, to go to bat for us and to write this letter for us. And, even in the first edition, his name isn't signed, right? So he didn't want to sign his name because he didn't want anything to do with it. It wasn't until 1955 or 56 that he put his name in, because the Medical Association had finally, decided, okay, this is something real. This alcoholic thing is something real. And we're going to, we're going to recognize alcoholism as an actual illness. And Dr. Silkworth allowed his name to be in the big book. So, when Bill, as far as I know, there was 40 of them at the time. It was Bill and Bob went to Dr. Silkworth and asked for him to contribute. Dr. Silkworth was definitely pleased and wanted to do this. But like I said, putting myself in that position back then, I feel like, he's putting himself out there for us. And that shows, the passion that he has for the illness and for what he saw, as he did study us longer when he was actually working at Towns Hospital. That's all I have to comment. Do you have anything
That's
else?
a lot of good history.
Hopefully it's
I
right.
need to hear all that.
All right. Okay. So later he requested, oh wait, hold on. Later he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story. I'm sorry, I skipped a paragraph. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book came under our care in this hospital. And while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here, and with some misgiving, we consented. The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. The unselfishness of these men, as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. All right, Bianca.
All right. Yeah, while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. These are the steps we took, not the steps we, read and talk about and think about and analyze. You just do it. And I just wanted to cross-reference page 14 in Bill's story. While I lay in the hospital, the thought came that there were thousands of hopeless alcoholics who might be glad to have what I had been so freely given. Perhaps I could help some of them. They in turn might work with others, right? Already engaging in a step 12 practice while in the hospital. I had this experience myself, and I didn't even have the common language. This is how God works, right? Did not have the common language of the big book, but I had such a powerful experience that got me into, this season of my recovery. And I was in a treatment center, just like I got enough of the spirit already. I didn't even know the words to this shit. And I was thinking like, I gotta help other people. Oh my God, they gotta know. Like I was like moved. I couldn't move. And then I was moved. And it's just a really cool experience. Okay. But I always point out when they're talking about, step 12 as like the ultimate solution where you are going to get, all of the promises of a 12-step program. Practicing all 12. Okay. Later, he requested the privilege, right? It's always that's the attitude of carrying the message. We have to be, filled with this gratitude, and it truly is. It is an honor to be an agent of God and to work for God today and carrying this message. The privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients. And then we get some, I love that you guys read from Vision for You at the top of the meeting. I love that. On 160. So 159 and 160 it's kind of like maybe I'm reaching, but it's kind of like what they're saying here. It gives us markers of an effective community, right? Like working with others gives us a lot of like effective conditions for one-on-one. And then we get the family, we get different relationships, right? But like Vision for You connected with this paragraph here in Doctor's Opinion, it's giving us, effective conditions for like meetings, for the group vibe, all of us together. So what do we get? Unselfishness, that's a marker. Absence of profit motive. And I know those who are more leveled up than me could probably connect these two, one or more traditions here and kind of cross-reference the traditions. Absence of profit motive and a community spirit. Like those are like three markers that they, three of many is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily. That's what I got on this one.
Awesome. Perfect. I think you covered that. Awesome. Perfect. I'm going to keep reading. All right. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Bianca?
Yeah, I mean, this first chunk that you read, Summer, it's an echo again of that we favor hospitalization. So it is important. They're repeating it. They repeat a lot for us undisciplined addicts in the big book. It often requires definite hospital procedure, like medical detox, right? Our separation. Again, I'll say it again, safety should be main concern to determine, whether yourself or someone else that you're working with would need hospitalization or treatment or detox or any of that. Before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. They do it again. They just did it in different words, right? You'll still, you might get a benefit, right? But you want max benefit. You want max benefit, then you're going to have a proper withdrawal, a proper detox. Doesn't matter what your, DOC is, including the people. I lived this. I want to cross-reference this with page 550 in the back of the book in the story Freedom from Bondage. this author says, right, one of our fellows says, I believe this, and I believe too, that it is equally impossible to practice these principles to the best of our ability, a day at a time, and still drink, use, act out. For I don't think the two things are compatible. You know, and then you get all the questions. We get all the questions. I'm going back to the love and sex, money, work, food stuff. Our abstinence with those things. It's not like we got to build a new relationship with a God-centered approach to those things that we need as human beings and that are God-given, right? Therefore good. I do a lot of modifications on page 69 with sex powers, right? Are anything powers that are God-given. Because sometimes it's not as simple as, right, putting down the thing that you absolutely don't need to live, like drugs and alcohol. Okay. We don't need this. We do need connection. We do need food. We do need, to be in the world that, is currently, to stay alive, you got to have some financial stability, semblance of something. That list goes on. So the abstinence here and the detox is from, I wish I could be more eloquent here, but it's not from these things entirely, but it is absolutely from acting out with these things. And we cannot, where it says, I'm going to bounce down, we can never safely act out in any form at all with those things. It's not like, oh, you can't eat, or you can't date, or you can't, spend your money, or you can't call your mother, right? But we can't pick it up when our motive is to act out, escape, whatever, because then we're going to ignite the phenomenon of craving. So we have this allergy, this phenomenon of craving, right? We're addicted to more across the board if you're an addict like me. And it can jump from a lot of different things. It's never enough. I'm totally insatiable. It never occurs in your average thinker, drinker, user, person, lover, eater, spender. It just doesn't occur. We're of the allergic type. So yeah, we can never safely use this in any form at all. So you want to look into what does use, lowercase u, as in non-God centered, right? Self-centered, base, 3D use look like. I could use something, or God could use me. I'm talking really cryptically here. I don't know why. Once having formed the habit, they found they cannot break it. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon all things human. There we go again. Just another reference to beyond human aid worth noting. We can't climb out. Okay, Summer.
Beautiful. All right. Touch on something really quick where it says the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class. Back then, it was a phenomenon because they didn't understand the craving 100%, right? Today, we understand what the craving is, and craving is limited to this class, but it also doesn't come into fruition unless we have the substance in our body before. So the craving, like I use it very loosely in everyday language. I have a craving for pizza. Well, unless I have pizza in my stomach, I can't technically have the craving that the big book talks about. I can't have that phenomenon of craving unless I've already put pizza in my stomach. So, that is limited to our class. Again, it sets us apart from the hard drinker. It sets us apart from the average, drinker that comes into hospitals to detox and all of that. It sets us apart. And also chronic, the word chronic, I actually didn't really know. It just means over and over, like chronic, like happening over and over and over. And I just wanted to touch on that. Reading on. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. I'm going to stop there because there's a lot there, Bianca.
Yeah. What's a the emotional appeal, right? It's kind of like surface level, human aid level and emotional appeal, which I've gotten from a lot of human interventions, right? With my family, with my partners, with, my therapist, my doctors. I've had all the intervention, right? And I've intervened on myself, which was my favorite one. Really thought that was going to work, like, you can't do this anymore, let me give you, yeah. It's just not gonna, it doesn't work for me. And I hope somebody could come in on more about that. But the message which can interest and hold, right? Because I could get your interest, I could do shock value stuff, I could do, I could do a lot of things to get your interest, like right now, probably. And people have gotten my interest before, but what's going to hold? I just got like a thing, like little in my head with, something else that I've discovered is absolutely true. With our third tradition, that the only requirement for membership is the desire to stop, but that just gets you in the door. It's the desire to start living, that keeps us here. So we got to interest and hold. Okay. Other sick and suffering addicts like us, that message, it must, another must, and Summer emphasized it, right? Must have depth and weight. And these are like kind of like vague, poetic, kind of like, what do we mean by this? It has to have depth and weight. There's a spirit that it's gonna hit you to the core, right? And it's gonna have enough it's going to hit you in a way, like the analogy, like a ton of bricks, or you're going to feel like you can't. You ever listen to someone, and even if you were like just like kind of resentful and kind of bratty, like it's almost like you can't get out of the chair or you can't look away. There's like a weight that's like holding you in place. Whether, just be listening to someone or being, like there's something that like hits our spirit at its depth and it actually holds us there. When I go through this, when I was taken through and I go through with others, I've always had this note added here, must have depth and weight, not necessarily details. It's why, I like to cross-reference this with 58, where it says our stories should disclose in a general way what we were like, what happened and what we are like now, not necessarily what it was like drunk logs. And I use this, and I'm getting really specific, right? Like, we talk more about the depth and weight, the real crushing problem, which is lack of power and the bewilderment and the terror and the self-delusion and the self-pity and the rage and the, when I focus on that in my active addiction as I'm carrying this message or in an untreated moment, I'm gonna, hopefully this is how I think the book is telling us to carry the message. And what's held me is when people, the focus is on that rather than all the little details of all the ways they might have used differently than me. Because if I'm a newcomer, I'm going to try to pick out all the differences. It's just naturally how it goes. So it must have depth and weight. And they include this one, right? So you got to be held. It's got to hit you to your core. And our ideals must be grounded in this power greater than ourselves if we are to recreate our lives, or just create or co-create or whatever you need to say. Okay, Summer.
Awesome. I love how you said that, how recreate, or when we think of some of the things that is said in the fellowship, I should say, you get your life back. Well, we get to
What if you never had one?
yeah, I know. I don't really want we don't necessarily want our life back, so we recreate our lives. So it gives us a, we get a brand new life. And I loved your explanation of depth and weight, something holding us down. It has to be more than the frothy emotional appeal. I mean, think of, and I hate to bring it to this, but a drink with the froth on top, it's not really that great. It's insufficient, unsubstantial, doesn't really have any of, you just drink the foam and it's like, ooh, so it's not going to work. I mean, the crying children, the DCF, the court cases, all of that, it seldom suffices. There has to be something that's going to hold you down, like Bianca said, something with depth and weight as well, in conjunction with our ideals being grounded in a power greater than ourselves. So awesome. Great explanation, Bianca. Okay. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line, see the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. All right, here's that word again, altruistic. All right, Bianca, you have anything for this?
Yeah. I There's a little bit of an attitude with this paragraph, which I like. I'm like, oh, they're like us too. They're like, well, why don't you see how you would feel? You know, like, well, you'd be sentimental and you'd be, grateful that this spiritual solution came along, and you'd be, like whatever, what they're doing here, right? Like supporting, you'd be supporting too. If, you were as despairing as we were, like the medical community at the time, right? Like they were in despair. They had problems that they felt they could never solve. So yeah, why don't you stand on the firing line with us? See the tragedies, and then you'll really understand. I just want to hit the end, right? We see it twice in the paragraph where it talks about the movement describing, what Alcoholics Anonymous, 12 step, big book, spiritual solution, like this as a movement. We hear other phrases for this, like design for living. We hear we hear program of action. And sometimes I will, pluck this word, and I'll say, to myself, and as part of the message that I carry, that yes, program of action, but program of movement. Because a lot of the magical, mystical, psychic changes that happen in my experience are not always in the doing. They're in the not doing. They're in the moments of pause and like being done. And, it's in the practice of patience, where we might feel on the surface we're not doing anything, but I gotta get up, I gotta do, right? Program of action, right? Do, look at all I'm doing, like give me gold star, God, sponsor, whoever. And we're practicing this other danger, which is works without faith. Like, oh, look at all the works I'm doing. And maybe it's because of my, all my years and the mentorship and modeling I had in the world of like dance. And but like I was always reminded that even in stillness there's movement within. And so even when it feels like maybe you're doing nothing, and if it's God, a lot of our doing nothing is God directed. If we're wholeheartedly taking these steps, we get the directive to pause, we get the directive to God sit on my tongue, we get the directive to have a period of emotional dependency detox. Yeah. And in those seasons of what might feel on the surface as inaction, there's still movement. So yeah, it is a movement. And a lot of things are moving and being moved. And I think what they're hitting at the end of this is the altruism, the service, that, you know, we get the recovery, we get the freedom, we get the power, through service and helping others.
Beautiful. I couldn't have explained it better. That's awesome. I love how you touched on the movement and altruistic. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks, drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. Bianca?
Yeah. If I had to pick, like, I can't just pick one. If I had to pick like the most important passages in doctor's opinion, I'd hit one of them about, you know, yo, if you need medical detox, do it. And this paragraph, right? So we drink, think, use, act out, essentially because we like the effects. Like, kind of like, who are we kidding? We love it. We love it. I still love it, right? I just don't love the, you know, the consequences. But I love that, right? We love the effect. And it's so elusive. That's like fleeting. You can't hang on to it. It's temporary, you know. So I admit that it's that, and that it's injurious, harmful, like to me, to others, whatever. But you know what? I'm just so fucked that after a time I can't differentiate the true from the false. I lack discernment. And we've all been there in thought, in, you know, active use of mind altering substances, in like blackout codependency, in like crazy thought anxiety spirals. Like we've all been to this place where we can't differentiate the true from the false, or in other words, self-will from God's will, fantasy from reality, you know, sick versus healthy. Is this me, or is this my disease? Is this my soul, or is this my lowercase s self? Like, we know this. And to us, our alcoholic life, which is just described and they're going to continue to describe it, seems the only normal one. Sometimes you get people, you know, I know it's not normal. Oh, I know. No. I know it's not normal. That's why I want to, and, you know, I'm like, okay, well, let's just look at normal as like familiar, right? It's about identity. Even though I admitted it was injurious and all these things, it was my identity. My addict life seemed the only one for me. I didn't know who I'd be, you know, again, with or without it. It a total identity crisis. I think that's what this line can be about. So we now, this one's classic, right? We're restless, crawling out of our skin. We're irritable, right? Resentful, angry, bitter, you know, discontented, right? Super ungrateful, bratty, resistant. Unless we can again experience the sense of ease and comfort that comes at once by taking a few, you know, thinks, drinks, drugs, acts. And this is the most whiny one, which I see others doing. I see others doing with impunity, meaning without seemingly, right? Seemingly without consequence. Right? Mm-hmm. And believe me, you know, my addict, the like untreated addict within this crazy brain, you know, this follows me, you know, like the progressive illness that we have, you know. First it was out of the rooms, you know, the non-addicts. Well, they can do it. They can do these things. And they're okay. They could stop. They don't have the consequences that I do. It's not fair. boo hoo, then, but it still followed me, into the rooms. Oh, that person can date. Oh, that person can be, California sober. Oh, that person can have a relationship with their family. Oh, that person, we're always looking to what others, how others are doing this rather than, going within and relying, like full reliance upon the God of our experience to dictate to us what we can and cannot do, have in our lives, the timing of that, right? Um, yeah, I want to connect that one to, page 30, the idea that we, are like other people or presently may be, has to be smashed.
Mhm.
Right? These people, we think they're doing it with impunity, and maybe they are, good for them, but it's not us. We're not like other people. They're trying to like drill this into us. I see others doing with impunity. And then it just goes through, the cycle, the addict cycle that is the same for all of us. It doesn't matter what you pick up. We pass through the well-known stages of a spree. I always love that they say well-known. That's well-known. We don't need to spend time. And notice how they don't spend time on like all the different ways that one could be on a spree and all the different ways that they pick up and what it looks like. It's well known. Okay. The well known stages of a spree, and all of us, no matter what we pick up, we go on the spree, we emerge remorseful, right? Shame, a real killer, uh, um, with this firm resolution, I'm not going to do it again. I quit, right? On our own willpower, these like oaths that we make to ourselves, which don't, again, don't have the sufficient power. It's not a power greater than ourselves. And it's repeated over and over. And then we get the truth. It's pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. But if you've been mangled enough, you will not just accept it, you will like celebrate this line and like welcome it, like throw yourself a fucking party, unless this person, me, can experience an entire psychic change, right? This is why it's about the thinking. We don't need to focus always on all the, ins and outs of how we used and what we used and whatever. It's the thinking, an entire psychic change. Then there's very little hope of our recovery. That's true. Most people don't make it. Summer?
Beautiful. I'm going to say the last line again. And since we're a little past the hour, and go to page 27, where it says this is repeated over and over. And unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. So like Bianca said, the cycle over and over. And right in the middle of 27, there's a great explanation of the psychic change, what are called vital spiritual experiences. To me, these occurrences are phenomena. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. Ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. So the thinking, all of that Bianca just touched on so beautifully, that's our hope today, that psychic change. We're going to stop there. Bianca, it was such a pleasure to do this with you. Amazing.
That was awesome.
Amazing. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we're going to open up for any questions and answers. Thank you so much for everyone that is here tonight. Thank you so much. We love having you.